And we are live. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all, particularly the contributors to this poster session on ruminant systems, and also the followers who are watching us over the YouTube live stream to this evening's session. We have 10 posters that shall be presented, and all the presenters have sent us pre-recorded videos. We will play those 10 pre-recorded videos one after the other in the sequence that you will find in the program, both on the Tropentag website and on the Wova platform. Please use the session question and answer, session Q&A section on the Wova platform to formulate your questions to the speakers while the presentations are still running, so that when we finish playing the videos, we can immediately start with question and answers. It is advisable that you have opened your YouTube live stream in one window and the Wova session question and answers section in another window. So having that said, I welcome you all again, and we will start this session with the first poster presentation by Olusoji Adeyosoye from Nigeria, I suppose, on in vitro feed digestibility. Could we have the video, please?
Dear organizers and my fellow participants, I am Olusoji Adeyosoye from Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria. On behalf of my co-authors, I'd like to present a poster titled In Vitro Feed Digestibility Using 5 Bacteria and Their Crude Enzymes Obtained from Cow Rumen After Slaughter. The study aimed at enhancing feed digestibility enzymatically in order to increase animal protein supply, which is inadequate in developing countries. The approach analyzed conventional feed concentrate for its proximate composition, digestibility characteristics such as metabolizable energy, organic matter digestibility, and short-chain fatty acids. Same was fermented in the presence of 5 rumen bacteria and their corresponding specific hydrolysis, singly and in bulk at an interval of 3 hours over a period of 24 hours, using graduated plastic syringes as anaerobic chambers. Plate 1A shows the in vitro incubation at 0 hour, while 1B shows the incubation at 24 hours with various gas production levels. Based on specific enzyme activity, Klebsiella edwardsi, Photobacterium damselli, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Stenotrophomonas maltophilia, and Burkholderia cepacia were specific for amylase, cellulase, pectinase, protease, and lipase respectively. Since gas production is a
Okay.
function of degradability,
So
Klebsiella
let's do
edwardsi
another
had the highest
sound check.
volume, 36 ml per 0.5 gram of feed of biogas, while the least gas volume, 1 ml, was recorded for both Pseudomonas aeruginosa and its crude
Yeah.
pectinase. The highest digestibility, 96%, was recorded for Klebsiella edwardsi, followed by the combined species with 94%, while both Photobacterium damselli and Pseudomonas aeruginosa had the least value of 74% each. The feed was rich in carbohydrates, 62%, making it a substrate of enormous biotechnological value with moderate digestibility characteristics. It could therefore be concluded that Klebsiella edwardsi was outstanding in potential for spontaneous degradation of feed starch into soluble and utilizable forms, in addition to its ability to produce a methane-rich biogas whose flammability was equally tested. Also, synergy of combined bacterial species were more effective for feed digestibility to enhance prompt nutrient uptake and utilization, thus increasing tissue accretion for a better supply of animal proteins. I thank you all for your attention as I welcome questions and comments.
Thank you very much to Nigeria for this presentation, and please write your questions down in the Q&A session on the WUVA platform. The next poster will be by Alice Onyango, who has been working or is still working at Mazingira Center of International Livestock Research Institute in Kenya. Could we have that video, please? And please,
Greetings, listeners. My name is Alice Onyango, and together with my colleague John Guppy, we present to you work entitled Digestibility and Metabolizable Energy Intake Equations of Tropical Ruminant Forages using Nutrient Concentration of Cattle Feces. Small holders in sub-Saharan Africa feed their animals forages usually of unknown or highly variable nutritive value, and this undermines proper nutrition. Determination of feed intake and their accurate nutritive value in grazing animals is resource intensive. On the other hand, fecal collection and analysis is relatively easy. Therefore, prediction equations of feed nutritive value based on fecal nutrient concentration would be fast, cheap, and routine. We used 3 in vivo studies with Frisian and or boran steers carried out at Mazingira Center and International Livestock Research Institute, Nairobi, Kenya, between the years 2014 and 2017. In the one study, we fed the steers a protein deficit diet. In the second study, we fed them energy deficit diet. And in the third study, we fed them balanced diets of tropical grasses with legume or without legume intercrop. Analysis of feeds and feces from these studies was done for proximate nutrient concentration, fiber, as well as energy, and also digestibility and metabolizable energy intake was estimated. Regression was done between of digestibility and metabolizable energy intake against fecal nutrient concentration. The third data set, that is the tropical grasses diet study, was used for validation, and evaluation was done using prediction errors. We found that in all these 3 studies, the digestibility was relatively constant, that is dry matter and organic matter was similar. However, for crude protein digestibility, the nitrogen balance, which is the protein deficit diet, was quite low. We found that the best predictors of digestibility are fecal dry matter, fecal fiber, and fecal crude protein. Prediction errors for digestibility were low, and this was very promising. However, this was not the case for metabolizable energy. And therefore, we concluded that these equations are weak, but they may be improved by using data from more test animals and more varied diets. The best predictors are relatively simple, routine, and cheap analysis that can be done even under resource constraints. The low prediction errors in digestibility equations demonstrate possibility of using cattle fecal nutrient concentrations to predict apparent digestibility and to some extent metabolizable energy. Ideally, these equations are developed using balanced rations at maintenance level, but this is rarely the case in smallholder systems where suboptimal diets actually dominate and prevail. And therefore, this study is a first step towards development of such a database of suboptimal diets and also prediction equations based on them. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I welcome your questions.
thank you very much. The next poster is by Karin Enciso and her co-workers on Arachis pintoi, potential for risk reduction, productivity increase in livestock systems of the Colombian Orinoquia region. Can we have that next video, please? We're still
Hello
having.
everyone, my name is Karen Enciso. I'm a researcher at the Tropical Forest Program of SEAT. Today I will talk to you about the economic evaluation of the new legume for livestock system of the Colombian Orinoquia region, particularly on poorly drained soils. Under this condition of soil, cattle production is dominated by extensive grazing system with Brachioramidicola. However, this grass has low nutritional quality. Therefore, the feed shortages are a major constraint, particularly during the dry season in this region. This situation will be aggravated under future climate change scenarios, negatively affecting quantity and quality of the forage. Arachis pintoi CIAT 22160 was selected as a promising alternative for improving the production of livestock. Arachis show high nutritional quality, persistence, and compatibility with the grass humidicola. The purpose of this study was to evaluate the economic viability of introducing the legume in the livestock production system. We compared two treatments: T1, association of Arachis with humidicola, and T2, humidicola as a monoculture. The analysis considered changes in biomass production resulting from variation in the projected climate variables under climate change scenarios for the region. Firstly, we use an analysis of variance for the identification of main climate variables and their effect on biomass production in the climate change scenarios. Second, we use a live seed model to simulate the reproduction. And finally, we use a discounted cash flow model and risk analysis for the estimation of financial profitability. The results at the technical level show that the inclusion of the legume allows the increase of meat production. The increase was around 52% per hectare. This improvement on meat production had a positive impact on both profitability indicators and risk levels. The net present value was positive, with less probability of economic loss in contrast to T2. The evaluation under climate change scenarios showed that the biomass production declines in both treatments. This negative effect is higher for T2, around dry matter production dropped by 14 and 35%. The better behavior of T1 was associated to several aspects, including the nutritional value of the forage and the level of nitrogen in the soil. The reduction on biomass production had a marked decrease in milk production, especially in T2 during dry season. On average, the production will drop 56% for T2 and 90% for T1. This impact on the milk production will lead to significant economic loss in the cattle production system in the region. The distribution curves of NPV indicators show a displacement to left side with negative values, so under climate change scenarios both treatments are not profitable. In conclusion, Arachis has a significant potential for sustainable intensification of milk production in the current scenario. The inclusion of Arachis reduces the risk of economic loss. However, under the climate change scenarios, the impact of atmospheric variables on forest production is considerable, with negative effects on meat production and profitability indicators in both treatments. Hence the need of the adoption of more efficient production practice under a comprehensive approach, for example, the use of trees in paddocks for reducing the heat stress of the animals, are all important for improving resilience under climate change scenarios. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Karin. And again, note down your questions, please, in the session Q&A section. And I see the next video should be that by Marvin Hoyduk, isn't it? So if we could have that, please.
Dear participants, my name is Marvin Hoyduk. Welcome to the presentation of my poster, Self-Medicative Behavior in Gastrointestinal Parasite-Infected Goats, Shift and Preferences for Taniferous Fodder Plants. Gastrointestinal nematode infections are a worldwide major cause of economic losses and a threat to pasture-based livestock due to their adverse effects on animal health and productivity. The excessive usage of conventional anthelmintic drugs over the last decades has led to an emergence of resistant nematode populations and increased the efficacy of available anthelmintics. This underlines the relevance of a paradigm shift towards a more sustainable and unconventional approach to control nematode infections. Condensed tannins, which are plant secondary metabolites, show evidence of anthelmintic properties, but may also be toxic in higher dosage. Several studies revealed a self-medicative behavior of goats with tannin-containing feed when infected with nematodes, though the trigger which provokes this behavior is unknown. A change in feed preference when infected due to a changed taste perception may be the reason. Feed preferences of 18 juvenile male boar goats were evaluated over a period of 12 weeks. Animals were assigned to 3 treatment groups: Group W, infected and with feed choice; Group S, infected but without feed choice; and Group K, non-infected but with feed choice. At the beginning of the trial, all goats were free of nematodes. After 4 weeks, Group W and Group S were experimentally infected with third-stage nematode larvae. Animals of Group W and K were offered a free-choice cafeteria trial for 30 minutes prior to the usual daily feeding time. 4 fodder plants, pelleted leaves of sainfoin, willow, walnut, and blackberry, of varying tannin contents, and tannin-free hay pellets were simultaneously offered. The position of the pellets in the trough was randomized daily. Let's get down to the results. Figure 2 on the left shows the average feed intake prior and post-infection of the free-choice cafeteria trial. You can see that there is no relevant difference between infected and non-infected animals regarding the absolute increase of the feed intake prior and post-infection. Though obvious in Figure 3, which depicts the proportional change of test feed intake after infection, there is a significant difference in the proportional change of feed intake after the infection. The proportion of the increase of intake was significantly higher for blackberry pellets in the infected group, namely 14%. Thus, the animals of infection group W showed the clear evidence of a shift in preference for tannin-rich blackberry pellets after infection. The willow pellets, actually with the highest concentration of condensed tannins, were almost totally rejected by both infected and non-infected animals. The reason might be due to the contained leucine, which metabolizes to salicylic acid in the body. Also noticeable is the missing higher increase of ingested feed by infected goats compared with non-infected animals to compensate detrimental effects of parasite burden. The increase of total intake is nearly similar in both groups. What happens next? Further examinations are needed to validate the shift of preference and to explain the trigger of this shift. Therefore, the saliva of the infected and non-infected animals will be analyzed to look for changes in composition to explain a change in taste perception and thus in preference. Moreover, feces, blood parameter, and the gastrointestinal tract of the goats will be examined to indicate to what extent the ingested condensed tannins reduce the parasite burden. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much for that interesting presentation. And please, I can see there are already questions coming up on the online Q&A session. So the next poster, according to my list, should be by Mohammed Khairul Bashar. Is that right? So could we please have him? Thank you.
Honorable Chair, distinguished participant, welcome to my presentation. The title of my presentation is Effect of Feeding Graded Level of Moringa Feed on Intake, Digestibility, Enteric Methanation, Rumen Fermentation, Milk Yield and its Quality of BLRI Cattle with 1 Dairy Cows. My name is Mohammad Khairul Bashar. I am Scientific Officer in the National Institute of Livestock Research in Bangladesh. Considering these 4 points of view, biomass production, animal production performance, methane emission reduction, benefit to cost, moringa 1.64 times better than the maize and other grasses. What are the justification to conduct this research? There is no quality feed in my country. Nowadays, farmers produce domestic moringa for human consumption, but they don't have any idea. Is it possible to cultivate moringa as animal feed? If we want to turn into commercial initiative and increasing the availability of climate stress reducing feed to the farmer, there is no alternative way to produce moringa as animal feed. From this point of view, we set the objectives: assessment of quality, moringa feeding impact on nutrient utilization, fermentation, methane emission, milk production of dairy cows. For achieving the objectives, we have designed our experiment. 15 animals were classified and equally distributed into 3 dietary groups considering their body weight and daily milk production. Experimental period is 60 days and 50% come from Napier silage, 50% come from concentrate. T0 group only concentrate group, T1 group 50% concentrate, 50% moringa feed, and T2 groups is 100% moringa feed. We want to see the moringa feeding impact on milk production of dairy cows. What are the intake and digestibility of feed nutrients? Diameter intake per 100 kg body weight, CP intake gram per kg, metabolic body weight was the lowest only moringa groups 2.3 kg per 100 kg body weight, 12.6 kg CP intake per kg metabolic body weight. But we see that the feed efficiency is very high, only moringa groups 87% comparing the control groups 65%. Figure 1 shows that with the increase of moringa feed, the milk production is gradually increases and the milk cholesterol is gradually decreases. Only 100% moringa feed is produced the highest amount of milk, that was 4.59 kg per day, but lowest cholesterol levels comparing the control groups. The figure 2 shows that with the increase of moringa feed, the ammonia nitrogen concentration is gradually decreases and the VAV concentration is gradually increases. The relation is negatively correlated, that indicate to increase the utilization of dietary nitrogen. It is very important for increasing the production and productivity of dairy animals. The standard value of glucose, blood urea nitrogen and creatinine were supported by the moringa feed that falls within the normal physiological ranges. But I was surprised to see when I increased the moringa feed into the concentrate, the cholesterol in blood is gradually decreases. That means 50% decreases from the control. That is very new dimension for dairy sector to produce the low cholesterol containing milk for human consumption. On this point of view, we concluded that moringa feed completely replaces the conventional mixed concentrate mixture without showing any negative effect. At the same time, increasing 31% of milk yield and reduce 50% cholesterol. And we can recommend it that milk production need to be tested at farmer levels in order to determine the importance of moringa as animal feed, its cost effectiveness and in the testing of marketing systems. That's all about my presentation. Thank you very much for patient hearing.
Yes, thank you very much, Mohammed, for sending this very interesting video on your Moringa trial. And the next one on my list would be Mohammed Tariq again with a contribution on effects of different production systems on growth, performance, and carcass quality of lambs in Pakistan. If we could have that video, please.
Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Muhammad Tariq and I am working as assistant professor at University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan. So today's my poster presentation topic is effects of different production systems on growth, performance and carcass quality of lohi lambs in Pakistan. So Pakistan ranks 11th in sheep production, sheep population with 29 million sheep at national level, and there are 28 distinct and recognized breeds of sheep and are mainly raised for meat and wool production. Sheep would continue to have importance for increased mutton and wool production in Pakistan in near future. So the overall goal was to the evaluation of the effects of different systems of production and sexual status entire are castrated on growth, performance and carcass composition of lambs. So the approach that we used, that 64 lohi lambs were divided into two groups A and B at the rate of 32 lambs in each group and kept in subgroups of 8 in 4 pens, and half of the lambs were castrated. So group A was offered a concentrate based diet of 85 grams of dry matter per kg of metabolic body weight per day, containing 15% of CP and 3010 kilocalorie of per kg of metabolizable energy with hay 100 gram per lamb per day. So group B was offered fresh green forage ad libitum and supplemented with a concentrate 400 grams per lamb per day containing 20% of CP and 2940 kilocalories per kgs of metabolizable energy. So feed offered and infused were sampled and their diameter contents determined. Feed intake was measured per day, animals weighted per week, and at the end of feeding periods all animals were slaughtered. A half carcass was sampled from each pen for carcass composition determination. So the salient results that we got include the concentrate diet significantly affected daily dry matter intake. FCR feed conversion ratio also significantly affected by the feeding regimes, and daily weight gain was also significantly different among the different feeding regimes. Final live weight, carcass weight, dressing percentage, conformation scores, total bones, buttock and fat scores were also significantly different as compared to the fodder fed lambs and the concentrate fed lambs. So however, fodder fed lambs had longer finishing periods, heavy total bones, weight of muscle longissimus dorsi, lean bone ratio and more linear carcasses than concentrate fed lambs. So the entire lambs, when we consider the sex, the entire lambs had significant daily dry matter intake, FCR daily weight gain and lean bone ratio than castrated lambs. However, the castrated lambs had longer finishing periods and more total fat contents, but these values were non-significant. So we can conclude in general, the concentrate feeding system showed good results for growth, performance and carcass composition, but economic decisions and intensive management must be regarded. Secondly, the results of this trial show that the sex had an effect on growth and carcass composition, and castration may only increase the fatness of the carcass, but overall lean remains lower. Thank you very much. This was all about my presentation. Now it is open for question answer session.
Hello. Thank you very much, Mohammed, for that contribution. And We continue again with Karen Enciso with her second poster on the high Andean oat as alternative for Colombia's high altitude dairy systems and economic analysis. If we could have that video, that would be good.
Hello everyone, my name is Karen Enciso. I'm a researcher at the Tropical Forest Program of CIAT. Today I will talk to you about the economic evaluation of the new oat for dairy production system of the Colombian high altitude tropics. In high altitude tropics from 2,200 to 3,000 meters above sea level, the main source of feed for the dairy production system is kikuyo. This grass has high adaptability and productivity but is affected by frost at several times in a year. As a strategy to maintain production stability, dairy farmers use commercial feed concentrates, increasing their production cost. The oat Avena Satina AB25T, known as Alto Andina, was identified by the Colombian Agricultural Research Corporation as a promising alternative to supply the requirement of forage in time of deficit and reduce the production cost. The purpose of this study was to evaluate the economic viability of introducing Alto Andina in Colombia's high-altitude dairy system. Alto Andina was provided as silage in two different diets. The yellow diet, composed of 35% Alto Andina and 65% kikuyo. The red diet had 65% Alto Andina and 35% kikuyo, both compared with the traditional scenario in the region, the blue diet with 100% of kikuyo grass. We use a discounting cash flow model and risk analysis for the estimation of financial profitability. The results show that the supplementation with Alto Andina allows an average increase of milk production per hectare by 82% for the yellow diet and 220% for the red diet. Of the three diets, the yellow diet showed higher production per day per cow. Alto Andina has a yield of 46,000 kilograms of green forage per hectare, equivalent to 41,000 kilograms of silage. The total cost per kilogram was 7 cents. According to the results of the economic model, the yellow diet is the best alternative. Its average net present value was higher by more than 80% compared to the other diets and showed a lower variability. At technical level, the red diet was the best option with higher milk production per hectare. However, the cost of producing one additional liter of milk was higher. The distribution curves of NPV indicators show that the yellow diet have the lowest risk for economic loss and the different yields on market scenarios. In conclusion, the supplementation with Alto Andina proved to be an efficient alternative to supply the feed requirements in critical seasons. The yellow diet with 35% Alto Andina supplementation was the best alternative to improve the efficiency and profitability at farm level. Also, Alto Andina has characteristics like drought tolerance and frost resistance, making a valuable option for the specific climate condition in the Colombian high altitude tropics. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Karen, for that very concise and interesting contribution on the economic analysis of introducing oats. The next poster contribution that we have is to my list from Rivad Sweden, the effect of willow silage on carcass characteristics in Awasi lambs. If we could have that presentation. Please, Rivad Sweden.
Dear colleague, my
Yes.
name is Rawad Swida. And together with my co-author, Dr. Sami Awabde, we are welcome you to our poster presentation about the effect of willow silage on carcass characteristics and meat quality of fattening Awasi lambs. Our research was carried out at Al Khanas Station for Animal and Rangeland Research, in which they have two breeds, Awasi sheep and Black Mountain goats. Awasi sheep is a fat-tailed breed with the dill purposes. Livestock household bred Awasi rams for their meat, as well as Awasi ewes for their milk. Feed cost is the main factor affecting production system in Jordan. So introducing palatable and cheaper feedstuff will definitely improve the livelihood of livestock's household. Therefore, our objective was to evaluate the effect of willow silage, a newly introduced feed, on the carcass characteristics and meat quality of Awasi lambs. To do that, 26 weaned Awasi lambs were placed in individual pens and assigned into three groups. Control group, in which lambs were only fed wheat straw, a common source of forage in Jordans. Willow silage 50, where lambs fed 50% of the forage as willow silage, and willow silage 100s, where lamb fed only willow silage as a source of forage. This table shows the ingredients and the chemical composition of the three groups, and also shows the chemical composition of the willow silage. Our result shows that hot, cold carcass weight and dressing percentage and the weight of internal organs were all unaffected by feeding willow silage, except for the kidney fat, in which the control had significantly more kidney fat than the silage groups. Also, silage group had lighter loin and more fat tail compared to the control. On the other hand, the shear force measurements on longissimus muscles, which measures the force needed to cut a piece of meat, was significantly lower in silage group compared to the control, while 50% willow silage group was intermediate. In conclusion, our research shows willow silage as a potential non-conventional feed, which not only high in protein but also cheaper than wheat straw, a commonly used forage in Jordan and relatively more expensive. Our research also shows that feeding willow silage not only increased fat deposition in the tail, which is easy removal from the carcass, but also increased the meat tenderness by showing lower shear force. And finally, meat consumer in Jordans prefer lighter color meats, although feeding willow silage has no effect on meat colors. The lamb fed willow silage had a lighter, non-significant meat colors, which could improve the livelihood of the livestock's households. Thank you for your attentions, and I'm looking forward for your questions.
Thanks, Robert. And now the next presentation is by Ashinafi Mitiku on fermentation quality and aerobic stability of maize stover banana pseudostem mixed silages in Ethiopia. If we could have that video, please.
Thank you. I am Ashinafi Azaga. I am working on fermentation quality and aerobic stability of maize stover and banana pseudostem mixed silage in Ethiopia. The feed harvesting and conservation practice in Ethiopia are not very efficient to ensure year-round feed security, and the conservation practices are mainly in open space where qualities are affected by the rainfall and the direct sunlight on the conserved fields. As a result of this, animals are performing very poor in their milk and meat production, and also they are late for free grazing and causing overgrazing and degradation in the area. However, the areas are known for crop productions of maize and banana, and in which the byproducts of these two crops are underutilized. Therefore, utilizations of these byproducts in the form of silage may improve the feed availability and also decrease the free grazing and degradation seen in the area. Therefore, the objective of this study is mainly to evaluate the viscochemical and microbial qualities of maize and banana pseudostem mixed silage conserved in the micro silo. So in the materials method, we collected the byproducts of the two crops and we chopped 2 to 4 centimeter lengths of the dry maize stover, fresh maize stover, and banana pseudostem, and we mixed the separately chopped byproducts proportionally as indicated in table 1 in 6 treatments, and also we sampled them in different intervals as indicated in here 0, 7, 14, 30, and 60 and 90 days of sampling intervals for 3 months, and we determined the microbiological qualities by plate count methods, and also we followed standard procedure for pH measurement. Therefore, we found significant reduction in pH and also significant difference among the treatments in their pH records. And also we have seen significant increase in the first week of fermentation of the lactic acid bacteria counts and distinct variations of enterobacteriaceae counts enriching below the detection limits. And also we followed standard procedures in aerobic stability test, and we found that the most perishable ones were those which were considered the well fermented ones, which were having a pH 4 and below 4, and the most stable ones were the less fermented ones derived from dry maize mixture. Therefore, we can conclude that the fermentations of the mixed byproducts of these two crops may improve fermentation quality, but may not always the aerobic stability. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. And we directly move to the last presentation of this poster session, again by Sami Awadi and Rivad Sweden. The potential of willow silage as forage for lactating awasi ewes. Can we have that, please?
Greetings, everyone. I am Sami Awabdi from Jordan, from National Agricultural Research Center, together with my colleague, Engineer Rawad, working at Livestock Department. We all the time thinking about the solution of how we can produce forage using low quality water, because Jordan is one of the poorest country in the world regarding water resources. And also there is a big shortage in feedstuff for animal farming. From this point of view, we all the time thinking regarding how we can use the low quality water from treated wastewater plants to produce high quality forage. Together with USAID, we launch a project funded by USAID targeting wastewater plants in the south of Jordan, in the middle, and also in the north, using low quality water to produce forage from willow trees. We produced high quality silage from willow trees. One of the experiments that we conducted at Al Khanasri station for livestock research to evaluate the potential of willow silage as a forage source for lactating awasi ewes, which is the awasi breed in Jordan. The experiment containing two groups, the control and the treatment, 21 awasi ewes dividing by 11 in control group and 10 in willow silage. As you see, silage we are using instead of wheat straw, which is the main source of roughage in Jordan. And the ratio of concentrate and forage is 20 to 80%. Our results shows that feeding willow silage had significant increase of milk production comparing to control group, which is around 190 ml per head per day. Also, our data shows that to the total solid of milk and milk fat and milk protein has no affected by feeding willow silage in the ration. We can use the results based on this experimental trial to convince the farmers to use willow silage economically and to improve growth performance of the lambs and reduce cost of milk. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much to all of you for sending in these presentations and for designing smart posters and for doing your research. We have almost eaten up, no, we have in fact eaten up all our session time, but the technology host gives us 10 minutes more approximately for questions and answers. So, and opening the floor, I will first read to you the online questions that we have got from outside our session. And there's one by Marion Reichenbach addressing Karen Enciso Valencia, which is, Karen, are you listening? She's still there. Yes, she is still there. Which cattle are kept in the area? Are the local Criollo cattle able to deal with forage shortage during the dry season better than crossbred or exotic cattle? Karen, what would be your take on that? I cannot hear you nor see you. Could you unmute your microphone and maybe turn the video on? Okay. Karen doesn't seem to be with us. Then I would like to address the questions in the order that they were asked. And there was one, I don't read the one by Robert Sweden to our colleague from Nigeria because he had, and to Alice because they answered that already. But a question to Oluzoji, asked by Alice Onyango. Oluzoji, practically, how would farmers exploit the use of such enzymes as you have told us in day-to-day nutrition? Oluzoji, you have to unmute your microphone, please. Yes.
All right. Can I respond now?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for the question. If I got the question right, the practical application of the enzymes by the local farmers, right? Okay. So the enzymes, the crude enzymes can be applied by the local farmers by getting the substrate, the culture, the liquid culture of the organisms and applied directly as a premix to the feed, which can be directly fed on by the animals. So the crude enzymes can be obtained commercially and sprinkled as premix of conventional concentrates of these animals. And by that, it's going to enhance the feed degradation within the shortest period of time.
Alice, are you satisfied with that? Do you want to?
In the interest of time, I'll follow it up with him.
Okay, you'll follow it up bilaterally.
Thank you so much.
And I'll move to the next question, seeing that Karen has still not responded. The next question goes to Marvin Hoyduk. And it comes from Rabat, Sweden. Marvin, what part of willow did you use in the pelleted feed? Is it the whole plant or just a part of it? Marvin, I can't hear you. Although, no, this is not, hello is not working even. Can you hear us? Apparently.
I can hear, but I can't hear him.
Can you hear him?
No.
No. So then, maybe until Marvin has sorted out his technology, we move to a question to Mohammed Tariq. A question again by Rawad. Mohammed, what is the ADG of Lohi sheep, which is the average daily gain? Huh? The average daily gain of Lohi sheep, would you have an idea?
It is about 200 grams to 300 grams per day.
200 grams or 300 grams per day. Rawad,
So the sheep doesn't have a tail, or it's
No, it is not a fat tail. It is thin tail sheep.
okay, and it depends on the ration. It's 200
Yes, of
gram
course.
per day.
Yes, actually it depends upon, but we normally take in our field condition. That is, but on the field condition, when you are giving the good rations, then it could reach to 400 to 500 grams per day.
Okay, because it looks like awasi, the sheep that we have, but
Yes, you are right, but it
our
is
breed has a fat tail, and
you are
that's
right.
good.
You are right.
That's it.
But this is a very, it is big in stature, than Awasi. Awasi is a little bit lower statured breed, but Lohi is a little bit it is big in stature, good in weight. It could reach to 60 to 70 kgs. Yeah, and males are
But
really very good in meat production.
I know, but because if you use castration, the fat goes all the way to the body, the fat body,
Yes,
right? But in
you are right.
awasi, because it goes to the fat tail, and the fat tail, it's easier to remove from the carcass.
Okay. Could you follow the breed discussion up? Is Marvin online now? Can we?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Perfect. So, I will repeat the question. So, which part of willow I used? So, I just used the leaves. I forgot to mention that. So, I just used the leaves of willow and also walnut and blackberry, just the leaves. Yes.
So, because the leaf has a higher salicylic acid, so that's why it takes some kind of.
But if we also use the bark, we had also used the bark of walnut, and so we just concentrated on the leaves.
Yeah, sure.
Did you add an oil for the pelleted?
No, just water. Leaves and water, for pelleting.
Okay, because we are looking for doing that, because we're working also on willow, but willow silage, not willow pelleted.
Okay.
And we're thinking to do willow silage but pelleted.
Okay.
Somehow.
And does it work, or?
We're still working on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would have another question to Marvin by Alice. How would these results differ if you use different species, say cattle, given the differences in salivary tannin binding abilities?
Yeah, great question, Alice. Because there's a difference between browsers and grazers in tannin binding abilities. So browsers like goats are more used to tannins, content tannins. So there would be totally a difference in these results regarding the taste perception and feed preferences in relation to cattle, because cattle as grazers are not that used to tannins, so there would be different in the results, pretty sure.
This would lead to the question that came to me when I listened to your presentation: is how did you choose the plants that you offered?
I checked. Also depends on availability, of course. And also, I try to have a broad variety of the concentration of content. So, and also I wanted to have some herbaceous plants and also, some shrubs and trees. So there was a mixture between.
Yeah, because as I see, the blackberry and the walnut does exactly what you want, if I can say so, while the willow does not really. And both in figure 2 and figure 3. And this is, I think that's very nice. What other plants, like connecting to the question of Alice, what would be plants in a herbaceous sort of sward where you have grasses and herbs that you would suspect doing similar things or behaving similarly but with cattle?
Herbaceous plants, there are quite a lot. Chicory or common hornbeam, or as heather, cowberry as a shrub, also sula, birds for trefoil. So there are quite a lot of plants you can use. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, lucerne also, alfalfa, bush clover, red clover.
Yeah, this I found this a very nice study actually, and congratulations to that. But if you have, if I may, I have another question to Alice on her things. Since decades, people try to find out how much and what do their animals, their ruminants, eat on pasture in systems where you don't feed them, but where they go out and graze. And has your work any implication for larger scale ranches like the Mazingira Center, for example, so that you can find out or somehow analyze what have these animals eaten, what would have been their daily intake on pasture, and how would I need to strategically supplement depending on the overall fodder situation?
Thank you very much for that. Right now we have just started a study in eastern Kenya, that is Kapiti Plains, with grazing small ruminants, in order to also build on the database. Of course, it would be completely different because when they're grazing, they're eating everything, and you never know exactly which species is being taken and which is not. So that is something that we need to build on, and we are actually thinking of ways of doing trials, not just with the specific diet, but general grazing systems.
I mean, with fecal microhistology, you could find out what they have eaten and in what proportion, and then assume the nutritive values of these things. But then analyzing samples would become very expensive. And if you imagine you were a large-scale rancher in Laikipia and you want your data quick and easy and cheap so that you can immediately act with your supplementation regime, then this is something where we somehow have to think about.
Yes, indeed. This is something that we need to think about. The good thing is that we are building on this database as we are doing other things, because like right now we have a study in Western Kenya, actually what I'm working on right now, where we are looking at the different plant species in a pasture field. And we are trying to see if we can separate out and work out the nutritive value, and then maybe later we'll build on the fecal content later.
Cool. I'll be interested to hear it on the next Tropentag. Are there any other questions? If that is not the case, there is also no more online question.
Actually, there is a question by Eva.
There is.
trying to answer it on that question.
There is a question by
Eva.
Yeah, just carry on. I can't see it actually.
Oh, I see it in the app.
You see it on the app. Yes. Now, Rawat and Sami, how easily and how much is willow available to the livestock keepers, and is it easy to ensile willow leaves without risk of spoilage?
Well, it's grows naturally on water stream, so it's available for everyone, not just for the livestock keepers. And it's also easily to grow. You just have to have a cut and just grow it on the soil, and it grows like a plant. We use the leaf and small branches. We chop them and we inside them in a plastic bag with some water and some molasses. And it's easy. After like 40 days, it's perfect for the animal, and it's very, very good. Spoilage, I think we have like some kind of spoilage on the top, but if you remove that, it's all good.
Okay, thank you.
In general, we can say that it is not easy and not difficult to ensile willow silage. The more important things is to chop the branches so fine and to compact them very well. As Rawad said, we can see some fungi growth in the top of the micro silo. You can remove this part and you can feed it easily. And it's very nice.
Actually, also we test for the
palatable.
aflatoxin. We tested for aflatoxin, and it was negative. There's no level of aflatoxin that affects the animal.
The adding of fermentable carbohydrates to make the fermentation going very well, it's around 4% of fresh weight.
Okay.
Excuse me. I have a question to Rawad.
Mohammed, carry on.
Yes.
Last question, by the way, because
yes,
it's
fine. So, Rawad, is this Wasi sheep contributing to your meat production or mainly dairy production, or it is a dual purpose breed in Jordan?
Actually, for both, because the rams are used for meat, or grain or grain for meat, because the meat has high fat content, and also for milk, because milk also they have like 6% of milk, 6% fat in the milk.
Oh, great. And
so
it
also dual purposes. They use for both purposes, and it's the main livestock in Jordan, like 3 millions or 4 millions.
Not in Jordan and also in the region. In the region also, Dr. Mohammed, in Iraq, in Iran, in Turkey, in Palestine, in Jordan, in Syria, in Saudi Arabia. It is a regional breed, and I can add maybe trouble purposes, meat, milk, and wool also.
Okay, great. So mainly they are produced in intensive production systems or extensive production systems?
Both.
On the ranges.
Yeah, and most of the livestock are like nomadic. They go graze on the floor, on the range, and we have also like farmers are intensively producing for lambs, for meat, and for milk.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. I have to close the session right now because we are past 7, and at 7:30 there will be music, African music from Sheffield University, Tangapazi. So you can all join it via the Tropentag platform. It will be an online stream. And I thank you all for contributing, for putting so much efforts into producing posters, recording videos, and for being all here and interacting. And please do not stop interacting when the session ends, but use the various features that we have new since this year on the conference platform to stay in touch and to exchange your ideas and your critical questions. So thanks for participating.
Thank you.
And have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a nice evening too. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.